Welcome all of you to our webinar, which is part of the series of the Masters in Coaching webinar. Um, Now, this particular webinar that we have today is about emotional intelligence, which, as some of you would know, is the cornerstone of effective leadership and, forming meaningful relationships and personal well-being in life. Now, today in this particular webinar, we are joined by Cindy, who is the training director at Kocharya. She's also a master. We're actually joined by two master coaches today. We also have Priya Ramesh in our webinar, who is also a Kocharya trainer. And today we're going to delve into the core principles of emotional intelligence and explore how self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills shape our ability to navigate challenges and build connections in life. Now, before we start the webinar, and I will invite all of you who are joining us for the webinar to leave your questions and comments in the chat box. We will be taking them up in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. So please do, remember to share anything that is coming up for you in the chat box. It will be answered by Cindy and Priya. Now, apart from all our level programs that keep happening, ICF level 1 and ICF level 2, we also have a bunch of, very interesting programs that we have coming up. Cindy and Tracy are doing a program on somatic coaching and personal mastery. So if you're looking to, deepen your coaching skills and learn how to use both the body and the mind while coaching, this program is for you. You must definitely check it out. I will be leaving all the links in the chat box shortly after the discussion begins. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at support@kocharya.com. You can also reach out to me directly at yamini@kocharya.com. We have an advanced mentor coach training program, again, which will be led by Cindy. This starts on the 22nd of April. And anybody here who's looking to get trained as a mentor coach, this is the program for you. And you can check out all the details in the links I will be pasting shortly. We also have a couple of webinars coming up, but all that information is already available on our website. So you can just check our website for that. With that, Cindy and Priya, over to you. Thank you so much.
Priya, it's a pleasure to engage, connect, and do some dancing of insights with you today on this topic, emotional intelligence.
Absolutely my pleasure, Cindy, to partner with you on this.
So, Vesta, is there a possibility that Priya and I could appear side by side? Thank you. So, Priya, I know this topic is yours, meaning you've evolved it, developed it, speak openly about it. And, from what learners say about you, you're quite good in delivery on this topic. They love listening to you. What makes this topic so evoking for you?
That's an interesting question. This topic is, yes, indeed, you're right. It's very close to my heart. And I really understood the full potential of unlocking the power of emotional intelligence when I started my coaching journey. Because finally it was about connecting with two people, right? It's a conversation between two people. It could be two, it could be a larger group. But when I was working with leaders, what I really figured out is that this is a game changer. What made leaders successful? Why this leader is navigating his work challenges better? Why is this individual able to navigate their own personal life better? And for all of it, the answer was how they were able to leverage, unlock, which starts with knowing and understanding their own emotions. So it was very, very interesting for me to embark on this journey. And I went the whole hog to know all about it, got certified as an EQ assessor and all of it, Cindy.
Yeah, so it seems for you, in the way you transferred that knowledge and evoked it in others.
Absolutely. And so I never, and it is a learned habit, right? It's
Mm,
learned. So
mm,
anyone can learn it. And as a child, if you look at children, they are naturally curious. They are naturally connected to their emotions, which over a period of time, I think somewhere in the journey to adulthood gets filtered, shut down, not given enough space. And
mm,
so I know it exists in you, me, and everybody here on the call. It exists, but we've just not been able to do enough to access it. And if we start
yeah.
accessing it, I think it's really powerful. And so I really enjoy talking about it. I enjoy people working to connecting themselves to their own emotional self and work with their emotions.
Hmm. So we've spoken a bit about framing the topic for today. Anything else you want to say about framing the topic before we dive into some key points that today's webinar will offer?
Yeah, it would be interesting to know how everybody's feeling at this moment.
Yeah, well, let's ask that, right?
Yes, let us.
Coaches, how are you feeling? I'm now making an assumption there's only coaches on the call, but how are you feeling? Ah, nice.
Interesting.
Hmm. So today we're going to dive more into unlocking the power of emotional intelligence. And we'll dive into the core principles of EI, exploring our self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills shape our ability to navigate challenges, build connections, and achieve success in all aspects of life. And we're going to do that with talking more about the insights into leveraging EI to manage stress, improve decision making, and achieve balance. How EI drives lasting behavioral change and fosters personal and professional growth. We'll also talk about some practical tools for enhancing EI and emotional regulation and cultivating some ways for cultivating empathy and improving our interpersonal relationships. Sounds like quite a bit, but don't worry, Priya and I will navigate this conversation with you quite well. You want to start, Priya?
Yeah. I think one of the things that Cindy and I explored in a conversation before we came onto this call was really understanding how emotional intelligence can, being emotionally intelligent can impact oneself in how they show up in conversations. How can it impact systems around them and the systems that they are part of and how they engage with the system? And also the impact, in some sense, um, that a coach and how they work with their own sense of, where they are in terms of their emotions before, during, and perhaps even after the conversation, right? So for me, one of the key aspect of emotional intelligence is, a lot of people, I think there is enough said about the four quadrants and the Daniel Goleman's model of self-awareness, self-management, motivation, social awareness, and relationship management. But there's still, I feel, a bit of a gap in really seeing how does this actually play out in real time. Yeah, it's good to read, it's out there, but how does it actually work? How does it actually impact success, impact oneself? Um, and To me, that's an interesting connection, because a lot of times we think about, oh, emotion, no, don't bring emotions at the workplace, right? Let's talk, let's take decisions, let's be rational. But whether you like it or not, and Cindy, you have worked a lot with the neuroscience, right? And you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
emotion drives everything.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah, yeah. So how do we now leverage that is where we are at this point, in a way that it becomes practical and applicable. And it's not somewhere, some framework out there. How do we bring it home to
Hmm.
ourselves? So, Cindy, for me, the question that comes up as I'm speaking is also, what do you see as a connection between, neuroscience and emotions, um, in the work that you've done?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll just pick up on something else you said. One of the ways emotional intelligence most shows up is highlighted in times of uncertainty. Yeah, when we feel some uncertainty, some stress, and the not knowing of the old situation, while it may sound cognitive, that means thinking, thinking, thinking. People will talk about all day thinking around something. For example, the company is going through retrenchment, or we're moving away from working from home, and now we are working back to work or a hybrid model. There's a whole lot of different kind of management around it and some uncertainty as to know how you're going to cope. But all this shows up with behavior or thinking. Like people will just talk about it, talk to colleagues, talk to managers. And it's only on further exploration when you go, anger may be showing up in people. Like, what's going on? When you really dive deeper into what's going on, and then you realize, the person is saying, I'm so overwhelmed. I had a very good routine going on when I was at home. And now coming back to work, traveling, all that travel and um, the hybrid model, I really can't cope. There's too much going on. And then you see the impact of can't cope. What is that doing on self, on family, on other impacts, and then, of course, all the workplace impacts. So it's like very systemic. So that neuroscience, how we think, impacts so many other aspects.
Absolutely. And I think that's an interesting point, Cindy, that when we talk about emotional intelligence, it is about being intelligent about the emotions which exist,
Yes.
right?
Mm.
And if we practice how we manage ourselves and how we are listening to the emotions, and how we need not agree, we need not follow it through, but we can take an informed decision. And so when we are taking an
Mm.
informed decision, we are really working from our cognitive space.
Mm.
So it's a beautiful marriage. It's an and, the
Yeah.
head and the heart is an and.
Yes.
It's not
And
two
the body.
separate,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
of course. That's the
Yeah. Yeah.
action. It
Yeah.
manifests in the through actions. So when we say
Mm.
emotions, there's always a thought underlying it, and every thought has an underlying emotion. That's where we are operating from. All our actions and behaviors stem from that. And the interesting part is, like you said, in terms of uncertainties, when this is really tested.
Mm.
Yeah, this really comes forth when it is tested, whatever the, whether it is uncertainty, whether it is complexity at workplace, whatever it might be. And that's when it really, sort of bursts. That's when we start paying attention. Until then, it's, you're on default mode.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like this is, yeah, you're right. A good word, default mode, until you start paying attention. So, one of the key to the intelligence of your emotions is to pay attention to it.
Yes.
And that could be either taking a quiet moment or some silence or some reflection. Go make a cup of tea or something before doing some reaction, and then you'll probably regret it later. So it's what is the intelligence of the emotion? What does that call for? Paying attention to that.
Absolutely. And that's such a beautiful word, right? When we pay attention, just like human beings, emotions are also screaming, I want to be seen, I want to be heard.
Hmm.
So it's really saying when we pay attention to it, then the way we are working with it becomes a very intentional and conscious way of working with it. So it's I think the important thing here is we can't expect to have this suddenly in a chaotic moment. It
Mm-mm.
requires us to build a practice of awareness, this practice of paying attention to what we are experiencing, processing it. So we can do that at times where it's not chaotic, so that when it is chaotic and challenging, we are we're naturally inclined to pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. When people talk a lot about uncertainty, I always raise this question: what feels certain in you to manage all the uncertainty? Yeah, like there's something in you there that's quite certain, It could be skills, strengths, whatever it is, but it helps manage the uncertainties. Exactly like what you're saying. You got to pay attention over a period of practice to how you recognize the emotion so that you can manage it better.
Yes, yes. Manage it in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
Like, for example, even even things like that um, anger. It's an easy
Mm,
example to take. You can express anger in many ways, right? You can choose, but the power to choose comes from this paying attention. If you don't pay
mm,
attention, you lose the power to choose how you want to respond. You become choiceless. And always the invitation is when we pay attention, we then are more powerful because we have the choice on how we want to respond. We may continue to express our anger in certain ways like we've done before, yet it's a conscious choice.
yeah.
And somehow
Good
responsibility gets
example.
built in it. Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about some examples of that. Um,
So,
do you
for
think you have
example, if
any?
you, yeah, when we talk about anger, for example, you have somebody who's repeatedly coming late to work
Mm,
and it angers you. I mean, it may start with mild frustration, maybe disappointment, and there are various nuances to it. But over a period of time, if you've done nothing about it, you start feeling the anger.
mm,
And so the anger is telling you something. Anger is telling you about your values. It's telling you about what's important. It's telling you something. So if we can pay attention to it, we say, okay, now that I know I'm angry, what about this is making me angry? The
yeah,
fact that there are rules and there is somebody who isn't valuing that makes me angry. And
yeah,
so now that I know what makes me angry, I can choose my response. I may choose to shout at this person. I may choose to um, penalize this person. I may choose to just keep quiet. I may choose to let his manager know. I may choose many things. And when I'm choosing to say, this is not right, this is not acceptable. So anger is serving a good purpose because you're actually standing up for what's important for you, what's
yeah.
important for the organization. You're standing up for it. And so the expression of what you're experiencing um, is a place of power. How are we
Mm,
expressing it? So not, you can bang the door, you can sulk, you can do many things. But if
yeah,
you're choosing it, then you're not left with any guilt because anger is an easy emotion to work with because we are saying it is always followed with guilt if it's not coming from a place of choice.
I love what you're saying, because many people think they only have one option to display that strong emotion, like anger, right? Like get up and walk off a meeting, or bang the door and close themselves out, or shout and rant and rave. They get used to the one option, and that becomes their go-to place. But you're saying, and what we know from core competency 8 on making progress, there's the autonomy of choice. And you can only go into choice when you begin to explore there are other ways I could respond to the emotion.
Absolutely. And oftentimes we shut our emotions out because we look at it as good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah. We label
If we
it.
Yes, we label it as good and bad. And so we don't even want to deal with situations where we are saying angry. Oh, I shouldn't be angry. But the anger is telling you something very important about you. Pay attention. I mean, you are the instrument here. Pay attention to yourself. Right? If not, it gets expressed somewhere else in some unhealthy manner that impacts the system that you're part of, your family,
Oh, yeah.
your organization, every relationship. Because we are all intuitive beings. I mean, right now,
Interconnected, intuitive. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And we can sense it, right? When somebody is angry in a room, you don't have to even speak, but everybody else can sense it.
Yeah.
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 So I like that. I love that, because what we're saying, you and I, is that in order to make progress on how you're managing your emotions, it gives you choice to explore more first. What can I do differently? What are some options available? And that only comes with recognizing that you're using one emotional trigger or outlet.
Yes.
And you're,
One way
yeah,
of response. Yeah. One way of
yes,
response.
one
So if you
response.
can recognize your patterns, if I
Mm.
feel this is what I'm thinking, you know, and when I think like this is what I do. That's your pattern. And the pattern is something that's over a period of time. And our brain is wired so we don't have to revisit situations. It's wired to go into default modes, make it life simple for us.
Of course.
Yeah.
It takes that effort, right? I mean, I know you and I are talking neuroscience here, but it takes that effort to form new neural pathways or different ways of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, Cindy, in your work, um, and in all the work that you've done, if we were to bring it back to, say, coaching, um, there's a very important uh, emotions play a very important part there, right? Being emotionally intelligent plays a very important part there, because you need to as a coach, you need to access your emotions, but you're also being very intelligent about how you're holding space for the other, how you're using your own self to support the other, and also being very receptive to what's coming from the other side. Um, what can you share about your experiences in that space, Cindy?
So you and I already spoke about it, paying attention.
Yes.
So paying attention falls under competency 5, maintains presence, right? Paying
Yes.
attention is the presence we give to somebody else.
Yes.
And partnered with active listening, that over time teaches us the skill to listen to the totality of the client, everything the client is saying or not saying. You can pick up in the words or between the words there's something more going on. You can pick up triggers that are showing up as language, words, but is more something sitting deeper within the client. So I learned the heart of really listening well to pick up all those unknown pieces. Like, so you're saying, for example, so you're saying you get angry all the time and you slam the door and you walk out, and it takes you a few minutes to cool down, and then you regret it and you feel guilty about it. If we go back to those moments where you walk out, slam the door, shut yourself out of the rest of the conversation, if you put yourself right back there and you stood still for a moment, what is your own wisdom telling you? Because then you really have to go inside you. And if you've done this repeatedly, of course, you would have been thinking about what can I do differently the next time? You'll even tell yourself, next time I'll do this, and next time I'll count to three, or whatever it is. So I like to hear that internal dialogue of what wisdom is showing up within the client.
Hmm.
Another word for intelligence, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's what it is. That's what it is. It's really interesting because uh, the word empathy, right? I mean, as coaches, if you're tuned in to the client's whole experience, it may not be just the words. You really get tuned into their emotional state. You get tuned into what is, like you said, what they're not saying. You also get
Yeah.
tuned into some of the dissonances. You know, somebody's saying, "Oh, this is very exciting for me," but um, that's not how you're experiencing the client at the moment. And so your own wisdom kicks in to say, okay, maybe there is something here to explore. And
Yeah.
and to me, Cindy, I think for us to be able to, as coaches, hold the space and really be present and listening, there's a lot of work that one does before.
Hmm. That's a very interesting point because I want to pick your brains about the work before we need to do to prepare. But Priya, that lovely question, I want to ask it to the audience.
Yes.
What do to our participants? What do they do to really pay attention to a client showing strong emotions? How do you engage a client? And go ahead, Priya. You were also saying,
No, we'll wait. We'll see what responses are
okay,
coming, and love to hear how each one's navigating because this is there is no conversation without emotions, whether we call it out or not. As long as two individuals are having a conversation, are connecting and connecting deeply, there's no escape from
from
emotions.
emotions, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Whether it's feelings or emotions, the same thing, just using different uh, context.
Yes.
So, coaches, please talk to us. What do you do? How do you manage your emotions, or how do you manage with client when strong emotions show up? Because then we take that conversation to coach, and how does coach prepare for coaching sessions? Core competency two embodies a coaching mindset that encourages us to prepare to do some mental and emotional preparation for a session, for sessions. Okay, let's we continue, Priya, and we'll keep an eye on the
Yes.
chat. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
Mani
right.
can do
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said before, and I'm saying it, uh, it's an entirety when you look at it from a coaching conversation, Cindy. One is your pre-work. Pre-work is
Mm,
saying, you know, how I want to show up today, which means I've done a lot of work in recognizing my own patterns of behavior. What choices am I making when challenging situations come? Because something in the client can trigger things for you, or the client may be triggered and maybe pouring their heart out. How do I hold space? So that is a muscle that one needs to build before you go in and through all the inner work, because your inner experience, your inner world will show up in how you engage with the outer world,
mm,
right? So a lot of work before you enter into a session. And then there's a bit of work in the session itself. Like many people, the question that you ask the audience, how do you manage yourself in the moment? And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of work we can do even after. And when I say after a session, it's really to say, what did that client say that triggered something in me? And this could be a coach client situation. It could be a leader employee situation. It can be any two people talking. What is it that they said that triggered something in me? And that's my area for work, to
Yeah.
really process that and say, so what's happening to me? What work do I need to do to be able to process this, manage my trigger, and exercise my wisdom and choice?
Yeah. We talking about practices. One of the first practices I learned in my neuroscience training was after every session to ask yourself, what did I do well? And what are some things I would have done differently? At least three things, either way. And in that reflection, you also debrief with yourself. You think through it, you debrief with yourself, and you put it down. Because you can't carry every client's emotions, right? What would happen to you as a coach? But you
Absolutely.
learn how to put it down eventually, and then, continue with your coaching sessions.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the power of self-reflection in the form of journaling or supervision, whatever way in which you want to process what's going on for you, I think that really changes the way you show up. And we often, I've heard this many times, Cindy, where we say that, oh, I don't have time for spend a few minutes to think about all this. I know as coaches, we may
Mm,
be more attuned to it, but in office spaces, in organizations, sometimes I've heard this, oh, I don't have time for sitting quietly. I just don't have time. I'm always racing. It's almost like saying I want to reach from point A to point B, but I don't in a car, and I don't have time to fuel the car
yeah,
and still expect to reach there, fine
yeah,
and intact. Right.
yeah,
So for me, one of the tools that has helped me so much is journaling and reflection. It
yeah.
just helps.
And it's okay also to take feedback, right, from
Mm.
colleagues, peer spaces, a supervisor, a mentor coach. Like if you're struggling with something, take some feedback or go and speak to somebody so that you can feed forward in that discussion. You know what you want to do,
Mhm.
what you want to improve upon for next session.
Yeah,
So get some help around that versus letting it just sit with you.
yeah. When you say about help, Cindy, another thought that gets triggered for me is, say you want to try and change the pattern. You know, there's an emotion arising. I want to change the narrative of what I'm thinking and therefore change the action and move out of the default mode. Even there, you can seek support, right?
Yeah.
You can have a partner, a buddy to help you and say, you know what, you said that you're going to respond. You're going to be mindful of how you're going to respond. You're going to be mindful of this behavior, but I saw you go back.
Mm,
Or, I see that, oh, you've made this change. It was amazing. So when you want to make a change, and when I say change, to move out of your default mode and be
mm.
intentional about it, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of effort. And I would invite everybody to find accountability partners, seek help, even in being able to change that pattern for themselves.
Yeah. We still talk, right, Priya? I mean, coaches, even though you at MCC level, we still talk and we talk and we talk about things that are sitting with us, whether it's a
Yes,
personal or a learner or some training or something.
absolutely.
That ongoing learning space. I
Absolutely.
think it's the best gift we can give to ourselves, a space of ongoing learning. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And there's always learning. There is
Yeah,
always,
my best come from learners anyway, when they say something, I go, oh, is that what it is? And, reflect on that. Oh, that's really cool.
yeah, yeah.
So we've done some speaking about the coach and the coach managing emotions
Mm,
and how they could prepare for sessions. And we have done some exploration from the beginning as to how it shows up in clients and the impacts in the ripple effects. Let's do some work on CC7, if you're okay
mm.
with that,
Sure.
because evoking awareness talks about the depth of coaching, either the thinking or feeling, either expanded ways of thinking or feeling,
Mhm,
or new ways of thinking or feeling.
mhm.
And then to link it to emotional intelligence, we spoke earlier on about giving or exploring other options with clients that display strong emotions. That's an expanded way of thinking.
Yes, yeah.
What about the depth of it? How do we dive into those vulnerable spaces of depth with emotions?
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's an interesting conversation because um, that's a lot about mastery as well, right? To be able to go deep and the whole of the person is really
Yeah,
saying how do we see it all? How do we hold it all as a
yeah,
coach? And I think for clients themselves or for individuals to expand the way they are thinking and feeling um, is really when there is psychological safety,
yeah,
when it is safe for them to explore themselves, when they are accepted unconditionally, saying what you're feeling and what you're thinking is true and real for you. From that space of acceptance, I think moving into expanded ways, I mean, it preps, it's the foundation of moving deeper and in more expansive ways. And diving into that space is really saying, um, again, going back to what we said about not making emotions right or wrong, just knowing that emotions serve a purpose. But let's look at purpose. What what is what is the purpose of this emotion? What is the need that is screaming out through these emotions? What is that unmet need? Because behind those emotions, there is a need. So,
yeah.
unpacking all of that, a lot of times I have, in my personal experience, I found that when you just are able to, have that conversation to say that this is serving a purpose. What's purpose? Is this emotion serving? Or is
Mm,
this way of thinking serving you? And when you think like this in new ways of thinking, what emotions are coming up for you? So really engaging with this in a way that makes them more comfortable, and it's a gradual process, right? They are more and more comfortable with exploring themselves, and how they feel when they think about this differently. Oh, this is where it's coming from. This is what is making me angry, for example, taking that same emotion. This is where it's coming from. I just feel that I'm not heard. And that's where it's a beginning of expansion for me.
yeah, absolutely. That's so beautifully said. When you're not heard, then it continues that pattern of the same showing up.
Yes, yes.
So I remember this client that I was talking about earlier, slamming the door and walking out of
Mm,
meetings without being heard. And when I asked that question, what is in that moment, if you went back there, what is your
mm,
whole wisdom telling you? And the response was, Cindy, I thought about that 100 times. What I would have done differently if I was there in that moment.
mm,
So I go, okay, And if we do something different for 101, what would that 101 look like now? Because
How
it seems
beautiful.
like the 100 did not make an impact. But
Mm,
now, if you took it a step further, what do you and I need to do together now to ensure that something different happens and you don't leave that meeting angry? Yeah?
mm, mm, mm,
That you say something, you have your say in a very cool, calm, and collective manner. As you said, the rest of the team is talking. And
mm.
why do you, the moment you need to talk, you feel the surge of anger and you walk out and slam the door? What would you do differently? What does 101 look like for you? And there was this light moment, the number made it lighter.
Mhm.
Yep, the
Yeah,
101 made it
yeah,
lighter. So
yeah.
the client then could do something different. Because sometimes, this is also a piece I want to talk with you about. Sometimes we take our emotions too seriously, as
Absolutely.
if it's cast in stone.
Yes. It's after all energy in motion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But have you
yeah,
noticed that when people talk about this strong emotion, like I'm helpless, I can't do this is something that's beyond me, I'm overwhelmed, as if it is, that's it, that is it. It's cast
yeah.
in stone. It's um, like it feels grounded for them, that one
Right,
thing.
right. And it can, and that itself can be overwhelming itself. Like, for
Yeah.
example, no, no, I shouldn't feel overwhelmed. There's something not okay with me. So I'm actually fighting my emotions all the time, saying I shouldn't feel the way I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling. So your body is telling you something, but you're refusing to take notice, or it's consuming you completely and saying, there is this 101st moment. There is this 101. It's not just the 100 times that you've tried. There's one more chance to be able to change things. And that's in your control. But you've let the emotion control you.
Mm,
And then you're stuck. Right?
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And then, to go below the iceberg and figure it out takes a lot of what you call that safe space. Hmm. Come, let's you and I explore this. Let's you and I figure out some ways in which you can do this differently.
Yeah. So one thing is very clear, Cindy, that unless we get to that, unless we hear this overwhelm, unless it finds expression, it's going to consume it.
Yeah. And it's going to come from the client.
Yes,
Like their feelings must be explored with the client.
yes,
All
with
the
the client.
feelings, yeah, associated thinking, all the feelings. And
Yeah.
if you find that you haven't thoroughly explored that, week after week, that'll still sit with the client.
Yes, yes. So this sense of whatever strong emotion that one is feeling, it's important to touch it. It's
Yeah,
important to touch it. If you don't touch it, it doesn't open up. It stays stuck.
yeah,
It-
yeah.
and it takes a lot of courage, whether we are coaches or otherwise, to hold that space for somebody,
Yeah, because
right?
the coaches, when I hear coaches talk about their discomfort moments or their challenges in coaching, my client started crying comes up right at the top.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and I didn't know what to do. Yeah,
Yeah. Our instinctive reaction is let's fix it. It's uncomfortable. That is a coach's discomfort as well, right? We are always working, emotions, and I feel this very strongly that emotions create energy. And that energy, there are two types of energy: the energy to move towards an action or energy to move away from action or situation. So, an energy that says, oh, this is uncomfortable for me. My client is crying. What do I do? I need to fix it. So, my energy is going in, moving away. I don't want to deal with this.
Absolutely.
I don't know what to do. And it's coming from a genuine space, right? You either want to fix it or you want to solve it, or it's our instinctive reaction. But if we choose to respond in that situation, if
Yeah.
we choose to respond, we are always asking ourselves, what's best for the client? And I always feel when there's a client who's breaking down, wow, we've got to a great place. Because the client feels safe enough to express what's very deep and personal and being vulnerable. I feel
Absolutely.
honored and I feel, wow,
Yeah. And I offer then to the coach who says, my clients are crying. I had no idea what to do. I go, what do you mean you didn't know what to do? If it was a colleague or a family or a friend that started crying in a moment of distress, what would you have done? What do you normally do? Oh, I offer them a tissue, ask them if they want something to drink, but just for them a space to feel consoled, but not take over. I said, okay,
mm,
then why didn't you offer the client something to drink or a tissue? Why don't you just be that moment called for vulnerability to also show up in coach? Just be a human being.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's you being authentic there.
absolutely. Yeah.
This is what I feel, and that's what I do. And it therefore gives permission for the client also to be authentic.
Yeah, then they can share with you, right? When they settled only, then ask other questions. Then worry about your solutioning or what you're going to do to fix
Yeah,
it. Wait
yeah,
until they feel settled.
yeah,
Then check with the client, how they're feeling, if they want to continue. And if they say
yes,
yes, ask them if they want to talk about what happened. Yeah,
yes,
what
yes,
happened in that moment where they felt vulnerable or they were crying. What is going on? If they say they don't want to talk about it, let it go. Ask them where they want to talk. Yeah, because they're gonna bring it back, right, Priya? They don't want to talk about
yes,
it right now. It's not the
yes,
right time. They will raise
yes,
it again when they're ready.
yes. And they'll find their way. You've got to
Yeah.
trust the client. They'll find their way.
And why? Because they have you as the coach. They find the way. Most clients know the process of coaching offers them the space to share freely in a very safe environment. They'll come back and they'll find their way with you there because they know it's a safe relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where this pre-work for me becomes very important.
Yeah,
How am I navigating my life in ordinary life? Not when I'm as a coach in front of you, but what have I done before that to be able
yeah,
to address, process, express, take charge of my emotions and what it's telling me. Um, and that's something that is so critical to embodying this coaching mindset that we say, right?
yeah,
How am I regulating? How am I managing? How am I working? And that gives you the strength to hold that space for the other.
yeah. It's beautifully said because in the design of the competencies, the core competency 1 and 2, the ethics and embodying coaching mindset shows up as the being of coach,
Yes,
the being of the coach. Yeah, it just implies how much we worked on self
yes,
in the way we show up for others.
absolutely. So it's not that 1 hour that you show up. You
No,
work, you work your way in how you want to show up in that 1 hour.
absolutely. To the point where you show up the same way in all spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's your expansion as a coach, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because it when you start getting comfortable in operating from your being, then your way of navigating in other aspects of your life also changes.
yeah. That's really powerful, right? That's systemic change where you change and you begin to notice so many things around you are changing. Like a coach in training, a new coach especially, will always say, people at home are noticing that I'm talking differently and listening differently. Then they see the ripple effect on
Yes.
colleagues at home. It just
Mm.
goes on, right?
Yes. And what's important there also, Cindy, is to realize, say, for example, someone who has never expressed what they feel, because
Mm,
because they come maybe from a family or a system that does not allow for expression. And here you are learning to express. You're moving out of your default mode and you're trying to express. You will find that it creates discomfort in the system.
yeah.
And the system, you've got to give the system some time to recalibrate to
Mm,
where you are. So, from this stage, you've moved to another stage, but the system is still here.
mm,
This can be an example, not just of expression of emotions, but say you were never used to stop and listen. You started listening. The ecosystem has not seen this aspect of you. So
mm,
they are disturbed. So when
yeah.
they are disturbed, two things can happen. Either their discomfort causes discomfort in you and you come back to your old ways, or you stay there and they recalibrate to the new ways of who you are.
Yeah, it's lovely. There's a Mahatma Gandhi saying around that. Um, Coming to the same place and noticing you have changed, something like that. I don't get the right words. Maybe somebody one of our coaches would know the correct words. But there's a saying around that. You can go right back to the same place and notice you have changed.
Yes. And you have to be able to sustain this and for everybody to accept. It's going to take some time. So
Yeah.
the invitation is not to quickly go back. Oh, no, no, I've upset the system around me. It's okay. The system will calibrate.
Oh, yeah, definitely, right? Then
Yes,
the system notices new change in you and the change in them that's triggering that, showing up. And that's a ripple effect.
absolutely. And it is a systemic effect. It is beyond you. You
Hmm.
make the change, but the change that happens is beyond you.
Yeah. Coaches, do you have any questions for Priya and I? Hmm. Our chat is quiet today. We don't have a lot of questions. Anything?
Yes, I don't know. I see a raised hand somewhere. I don't know, Yamini. Are you able to pick that up? I'm not sure.
I'm not seeing it. Where is it?
Yes, I believe Meryl has raised her hand. Meryl, could you let us know if you have a question? And would you be okay to share that in the chat box?
Oops. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
no problem.
So
Okay.
when we started, Cindy, we saw some words. We asked the group, all of you who have present here, how are you feeling at the moment? And we had interesting words like relaxed, curious, settled. Yeah. And that's a great emotion
Hmm.
for learning to happen. Because we always operate from place of, threat or safe. Are we threatened or are we feeling safe? And that's the fundamental core operative for us, right? Whether it is physical safety or emotional safety, psychological safety, we're always looking, is this safe or not?
Hmm.
And unless you feel safe, no learning happens. And so it's really beautiful how curious, and settled. I think it was a lovely space for learning possibility to come through.
Yeah, absolutely. That away or towards reaction, right?
Yes.
Yeah, anybody with that away reaction, they're not in a, they need something to settle in themselves to actually feel towards learning.
Yes. Yes.
We're almost at the end of our time, Priya. We've got 5 minutes more. I have no
Yep.
idea how time has gone by. But anything that you think we should add more right now around EI? Anything around self-regulation that we need to talk about?
To me, it is practice, and it's cultivated.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we did talk
cultivated.
about it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's about practice. And so as a tool for me, self-regulation always starts with a pause.
Yeah.
It always starts with a pause. It's my go-to button. I just press pause to sort of figure out what's going on. And it's okay if you don't respond in the moment. It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
You can wait, and you can always say, I'm not sure how to respond, so I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Nothing is lost.
Yeah.
So the idea that we should have it all ready and in the moment be prepared to say, you know, I think we should let go of that.
Yeah. That'll be
Cindy?
really good emotional intelligence if we learn to let go, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, Yamini, you were saying?
Yes, Cindy, Priya, there is a question. There are two questions actually in the chat box. One is by Anshu. She's asking what happens when the system does not accept certain negative emotions, say like anger or sadness. What would you advise?
So I think, like I said, the system is going to take time to calibrate. We are also assuming that the emotion that you're experiencing, you're you're exercising your choice to express it in adaptive ways, in ways that is supportive of the system. What I mean is, say you're sitting at a at a dinner table, and you are angry about something because you mentioned anger. You're angry about something. You can choose to sulk. So when you make that choice to sulk, also remember that there is a consequence to it. The system is going to respond one way or the other. The system is going to respond by not liking it, or the system is going to respond by saying, oh, he'll come around or she'll come around. The system will respond. So you also, when you're making that choice, you're also taking responsibility of how you're expressing what you're feeling.
Yeah.
That choice is going to give you the time, and you're taking the responsibility to, and that is responsibility, right? The ability to respond is responsibility. And we do it consciously. So the system will eventually understand, okay, this is where it's coming from, and they'll calibrate. If not, it's a great place to have a conversation.
Yeah. And if their systems are not responding to any negative emotion, then it's a good question to ask, and how are you responding to it? Are you buying into the system, or are you gently allowing the system to come up to your space of what you have resolved? Yeah.
Yes. And this is made on an assumption that you have worked on expressing your emotion in adaptive ways,
Mm,
right? So you are taking the responsibility to express what you're feeling in ways that support the system in a way. So you're not just doing what you feel like,
mm,
because that's where the intelligence comes in.
absolutely. Like even you use this word ability, the ability to respond. Coaches, look up the word ability and see what that means. It's so interesting when you look at these words that we use every day and realize, there's an intelligence even in that word ability. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been wonderful chatting with you. I know we haven't covered everything about emotional intelligence, but we were not hoping to do that. Today, we just want to take a deeper dive and highlight some things in the competencies that show up with depth and the
Mm,
safety for EI.
mm.
How would you like to close today's webinar?
I want to express what I'm feeling now, which is
Is
I'm
1 minute
I'm
enough? I'm
a
joking.
lot
Go
of
ahead.
gratitude, a lot of gratitude, and I feel energized because we've spoken about something that is so meaningful, and we've spoken about something being our true selves. And I'm so grateful to the audience as well uh, for being here and receiving. So, my feeling at the moment is that of gratitude and energy.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, and I'm feeling very pleased that I could dance with you on this webinar and with all our audience. And we, yeah, I love that we did not just stick to what EI is in a very, boxed way, informational way, but went deeper in for coaches and clients.
Yes.
Yeah,
And in some ways, it becomes real and relatable.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Priya. Thanks, Yamini
Thank you,
and
Cindy.
Sylvester. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yamini.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much, Priya. Thank you, Sylvester. For any questions, I see that somebody has posted a question about the CCUs. Please get in touch with our team for the CCU aspect of things. You can reach out to our team at support@coacharya.com. I will also just type this in the chat box. You can also reach out to me at yamini@kocharya.com, and I will make sure to put you in touch with whoever is whoever looks at the CCU bit. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today, and we will see you tomorrow for the Saptaswara Coaching Framework webinar. Thank you so much, Priya. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sylvester.
Bye
Have a
bye.
great evening and rest of the day. Bye.